There we are.
Good one.
There we are. Well, good Friday chat. So it's in the sub-series of Friday chat on Saturday, which is actually on Sunday for you guys, Michael and Anthony.
Yep.
That's how temporal space-wise wide we are, if that sentence makes any sense. So good Friday chat. Looks like topic. We'll have the obviously everybody smiling, even Oliver, and
it's very special.
We'll talk about the under 21. So there's a tournament. I think I missed the final is tomorrow, isn't it? Or has it been played today?
Today, our time. So tomorrow.
Today.
Your time.
Yeah, Sunday.
Yeah, tonight.
Okay.
Late,
so tomorrow.
late tonight, our time.
Didn't it end about 5 days ago?
Sorry?
Didn't it end about 5 days ago? Or at least the coverage here did.
So we've got, again, the Germans against Argentina.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, interesting tournament. There's been a lot happening. And yeah, Michael, Anthony, if you can tell us since Australia, England, and who else pulled out?
New Zealand.
New Zealand, yeah, pulled out. Well, you guys actually were still involved, so you can tell us a little bit what you've done with what your involvement is with this tournament.
Yeah, we'll start off with they're pulling out of those teams, right? So those teams made that decision based on COVID safety, is what the politics are saying. Which, fair enough. That's what they've done. So be it. But it does highlight the poor standard of the teams outside of that, shall we say, top 10-ish teams, which are relatively close together. And we're assuming here that Australia, England, and New Zealand are in the top 10. And at this sort of age group, we can't necessarily assume that because it changes all the time. But it's probably a reasonable assumption. So the question there would be, what is happening in those countries to help them improve at that junior development level? One of the things I should say here is that there's a very famous running coach out of New Zealand, Arthur Lydiard, who said you get to junior level on ability and then the rest is hard work. And that applies with this. You're seeing a bunch of talented kids. Can they take a step up from here? And the other thing for countries before we start details is, what are the priority events at this time of year or in the next couple of months for the countries, and where do they sit for the Junior World Cup relative to the events they've got on? So for the Asian teams, the Asian Champions Trophy is a huge event for World Cup qualification.
And because the question behind that today, I thought was, did the countries send their best players? We've got hints that may not happen, but yeah. So that junior. That Champions Trophy is also an element where we've seen some players have kept out of that Junior World Cup to take part. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and you can understand that the Junior World Cup isn't necessarily on the top tier of events for a country. It would be not unimportant, but it's not a top tier event. If they've got something for a World Cup qualification, some of those players would have to go to that quite soon after. And it is a couple of days later. If you're playing in the final, you'd have to be in Bangladesh playing in that Asian competition, which contributes to the World Cup qualification. So you see why some countries would make that decision if you're managing your players' workload well. That's not necessarily the case in some of the places. And Pakistan certainly wouldn't. They would just expect their players to travel everywhere and play every game, and that would be a problem for them. But if you think about it broadly across all those teams, are there any players out of the Germans, for example, that went to the Olympics? And maybe there are one or two, but there's probably not a lot. I haven't looked in that much detail. And they would have a whole group of young players coming through. The same could be asked about the Dutch. Were there any in the Dutch side that went to the Olympics? Maybe one or two, but probably not many if there's any.
Yeah, but there's quite a few that went to the Pro League, though. In the Germans
Pro League
and the
games
Dutch.
are different, right?
Because
the Pro League games are used for development. They're not top teams playing all the time. And that's one of the criticisms I've got of the Pro League. They took this up as a big game, but really it's a development opportunity for a lot of countries. and that's important. Don't get me wrong, but still. So you'll find those teams will prioritise those events that are really crucial for their senior sides, and so that Asian competition is crucial for those senior sides. So a team like Korea, who don't have a lot of playing resources, might keep some of their top juniors out so they can be really good at that Asian competition. Pakistan won't. They'll just play the kids the whole time and flog them to death. India would probably manage that a little bit better than Pakistan and have a similar approach to Korea, but perhaps not exactly the same. And other teams would be hard to know what they're actually going to do. That's that. But this tournament, from my perspective, was really disappointing with the floggings that went on. When you're seeing scores of 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, nil, it's not good in any event. Those scores happen. And particularly this young level, it just shouldn't be happening like that. Anything, Michael?
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I agree with you. You can see teams like Germany have just started their rebuilding for Paris with these young kids. The thing that's really important coming up in Asia is the Asian Games. That's a really critical one because that's almost more important than the Olympic Games for the Asians. So they'll be preparing. India and Pakistan, all of them will be preparing for that. The Asian Champions Trophy is important, but purely for a World Cup qualifying standards. But the Asian Games is also a qualifier as well, and not just for the Asian Games, not for that, but also heading towards the next Olympics as well. And they put more emphasis on that. So yeah, the Pakistan team will just flog their players. India will manage their players better. Yes, and we'll talk about their ages soon as well.
Yeah, so regarding the ages, so we've got an interesting one regarding the ages. So my impression was that Korea had a very young team. And when we look at the ages, actually it's not too bad. There's none of them that's younger than 18. So, but I know that some of the guys of the first team, the national team, that are under 21 didn't go to India
because they would prioritize that senior events. The Koreans are definitely doing that. They don't have the resources, so they would have a lesser quality team than what would be a normal 21 side for them. Pakistan, let's go there because they're a hell of an interesting thing. We had a whole team, maybe 20 under-18 players here in Sydney for a whole season. And it was I'll call it under-18. Do I have any confidence that they were all under-18? I know that two of them were not under-18 at the time, but in theory the rest were. And the youngest we had was 14. And if you look at that Pakistan team there, number 10, Gasantha Ali, was the 14-year-old back then. He was brilliant as a 14-year-old.
Shahid, which one?
The one underneath your cursor.
Number 10.
Yeah. But he's 18.
Yeah, that could be correct in terms of his age, but it's really hard to know. You look at that list of names, Mawin Shakil was there, Rizwan Ali was there, Wakar, the goalkeeper, was there, Abdul Shahid was there, Umar Sattar was there. And they still are really talented hockey players, but their knowledge of how to play was almost non-existent. Their method of playing was get the ball and go forward at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Which they're pretty good at, right? But it's not, you can't keep doing that the whole time.
Yeah. If Pakistan play a game and they've got a few goals ahead of you, 3 or 4 or 5 goals ahead of you, they will crush you. They'll just go all out. But if you keep them very low scoring and you score against them, they suffer badly with confidence. And they have a very poor tactical way of playing the game as well. Mostly because they have these old Olympians coaching who still think that they should be coaching like 20 years ago, play on grass as well. They're all dumb.
Yeah, and we know about ages in Pakistan. So there is that story about, well, we can name him, Wakas Akbar, who was part of, was in Beijing with Pakistan, and it was in the 2K, a big tournament, lot of parties, and was live on video with the beer saying Pakistan, the 2K is paradise. At the same time, Pakistan wanted him at the junior World Cup. He was saying, I'm 22, I'm not 21. There's my passport is not the date of birth on my passport is not the right one, and refused and got banned for 6 months of any international competition with the national team. A big thing in Pakistan.
Yeah,
Look, it's pretty hard. To be fair, right? Some of those players will not know what year they were born. They would be unaware, and they wouldn't necessarily have proof. So they would just have a date and a birth date because it's just what someone's told them. It's not necessarily accurate.
In India, when we did set up the junior squad, we had 138 kids apply, come along for the junior. So every under 21 is actually measured medically. They have their teeth and they have their forearm and they have their bone growth measured, which can give you a reasonably, within 12 months, accurate measurement of how old they are. Out of that 100 and odd players that we had, 64 of them got released because they were clearly over 21 years of age. So, and you've got to understand, in India, when you're in the under 21s, you get paid. So a lot of these kids then support their families, their villages.
Yeah, and the same would happen in Pakistan.
Yeah, exactly the same would happen. Yep. So India do a medical treatment, medical examination on every kid that says they're under 21 that doesn't have a legitimate passport and birth certificate.
Yeah, but that does not happen in Pakistan.
So in terms of results, the final is Argentina. So Argentina-Germany or Germany-Argentina. If you look at the final, let's say final four, is it pretty expected?
Except for the Dutch team should have been there, probably. I thought they were a pretty good, pretty reasonable team, except for that really bit of bad luck. But, they were clearly should have been in the top four.
They started 12-5 on Korea, 14-0 on the USA.
This isn't fun with these scores. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
It devalues the whole tournament.
Malaysia, and they just struggle against Argentina, really.
But it's
a lot of goals against when you look at that.
You show the players again.
So the players, they're pretty standard age, 18, 19, 20, except Casper van der Veen, who's 16, 4 goals. Is he known in the Netherlands, Joost?
I don't know. Casper van der Veen. I don't know him.
Wonder who he plays for.
I'd guess Kampong or something like that.
I think Bonov is from Almere. Guus Jansen. Joppe Stappenveld.
David Hoesen made me look a bit foolish.
Maas Bukkers is the biggest talent in the Netherlands. He is from Pinoquet. 15 goals this tournament.
Casper van der Veen is from Bloemendaal.
Okay, Maas Bukkers is insane. He's from Amstelveen.
So he's young as well, 17.
I followed him when he was like 10 years already. I went to every national championship, and he was insane on every age.
Yeah.
Is he a drag flicker as well?
Yeah, but, yes.
Also, he must be with 15 goals.
His talent is mostly goals.
Right.
But I mean, I think
because
all of those players
flicker in this team is Luke, number 20. Number 20 is drag flicker.
Right, Luke. How do you say that name?
Yeah, Luke Dommershuizen. Thomas Huizen. And Justin Block, 21. He was always the best player from Rotterdam.
Right.
He's also in the first team. Rotterdam.
How many of these players are first team players
Coach.
in Holland?
Most of
In
them.
the top division, the Hoofdklasse.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Maybe all of them actually.
Would they all be, first choice or first 11 players in that top side?
I'd say at least 10 of them will be starting 11 in the Hoofdklasse.
Yeah, Justin Block he was always captain in the younger teams. Joppe Stappenbelt also not captain, but Miles Buchan's good. Steven Verhoogd, I think.
Sheldon Schouten as well. Sam Figure. He didn't even get selected, but he's in the first 16 for Bloemendaal.
This is the goalie. Steven Verhoogd.
Yeah.
But this was they're all really good players.
Who's retired from the senior team?
Hmm?
In the Dutch senior team, who's retired?
All the good players of all the old good players. Billy Bakker.
Billy Bakker.
Yeah, he's away. Kemperman, De Wijn, all the big names except
Hertzberger.
Mirko Pruisen and Hertzberger. Yeah.
And
And
Van As.
Hertzberger's
But the
still
thing
playing.
is, and Van As. But the thing is, the coach wants them to train 4 times a week, and that group don't want it anymore. So they say you can decide, or you go with us and feel young again and train, or go away.
Price has stopped.
And all the old players go away.
So if they're going to train 4 days a
and they
week,
say
when do they
they are
train with their
thinking.
clubs? When do they train with their clubs if they
Yeah, then
train
it
4
will be
days a
the-
week?
They start with 2 days a week, but they work 4 days a week, and then
Right.
in good contact with clubs. Only on Friday they can do something for club.
Only on Fridays.
That's the plan. That's
So
the
they do
plan.
Monday, Tuesday,
He is
Wednesday,
the same
Thursday.
coach.
Right.
Yeah, that's where they want to build up, like that way. And
Yeah.
he did the same with the Belgians. And he was telling me, I did this with Belgium, and now we're gonna do this again with the Netherlands. It's a totally mindset for Dutch people because we're not used to it. And it's also a bit strange because our federation is telling us just train 2 times a week, no double trainings, or maybe 3 times a week, but no double trainings. And this coach is saying double trainings 2 times a week, and one like single trainings also 2 times a week with more power on it. So it's a bit strange that 2 coaches in the same federation, Allison and totally different.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. One of them won and the other didn't. So that tells a story, doesn't it?
Yeah, because Allison was telling me, I don't think it's necessary. 2 hours a day is more than enough. You can do everything in it. We do like in a year time, maybe 2 or 3 times the double training, maximum. And the double training is not like really hard training. No, then it will be something like mindset training or whatever. But that's the only thing she does.
What do you call a double training exactly?
Double train like 2 hours in 10 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning, and the same like 4 o'clock in the 5
3
o'clock.
training sessions in a day.
2 hours.
You have it even more
because
extreme by
Michael,
some
you
clubs.
used to do that with India, didn't you?
With India, oh yeah, because they're all too many papadums, bellies, fat slobs. It stopped the meeting. Because when they're not training, they're bloody lying down eating.
Yeah, but nowadays they say with the science we know it's not good. When we are like a couple of years ago, it was normal, but nowadays it's not normal anymore.
No, it's not normal anymore. No.
Yeah, and they say it's of course if you train a lot, but it's also really important to be fresh.
Correct. Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
But playing the club games are important every week, so they're going to develop their skills while playing a club game. So training is really, the purpose of training is to play games. It's not to do training. And that's the key to it.
Well, Alison's clearly been proven correct on what she's done. I mean, she's got the World Cup and the Olympic gold medal. She's doing something right.
Like you mean Anna?
And yeah, Alison in it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But there's also the team. Yeah, the team is really good. But her most important point, when you watch the Dutch team girls, and you always see, she told us when we intercept ball, first 2 or 3 simple passing.
Yep.
Before we make another decision. And if you see every time it's so normal. So they play not into how you say that, duel. We don't play duels with the Dutch team, with the girls. We just play around people. And then you watch Max Caldas with the senior man, with the men, and he only played duel. And that was the thing. It's strange.
Yeah.
But one got very successful.
That also highlights the difference between men's and women's hockey there too. There's a difference. So you got to be careful with it. Because with the men, you do have to take the game on a lot more than you do with the women. Otherwise, you're just not going to get anywhere. With the woman, you can just wait for an error and the opposition will make an error quickly. So then you're away.
And the Dutch.
So coming back to the under 21, have you seen the semi-final France-Argentina?
Saw the last 5 minutes of it. That's all. I haven't watched the whole
game. It was
game.
not a very interesting game in terms of spectacular hockey. There was not much happening, but there was a strategy, I think, from the French, which was be patient, and from the Argentinians is to let them come in.
Well, that's
so the
Argentinian
impression
style.
was that the French had the control of the game.
Yep.
I believe this is just an impression, because when you look at the results, we look at the opportunities. Argentina ended up with much more opportunities in the French D than the other side, while possession was definitely on the French side, on 60-70%, something like that. But the number of opportunities were definitely on the Argentinian side, and then it got decided on the penalty shootout and the fantastic performance of the Argentine goalkeeper. But what was interesting is that it was not very spectacular, and a lot of waiting, and yes, a very strategy waiting for an opening to happen that didn't seem to occur. So is it a strategy that you would see often in juniors, or more often in juniors than in the top guys?
No, Argentinian they got Lucas Ray coaching them, so they play the same style as the men's team. They wait defensively and they counter-attack really quickly. So the other team can have a lot of possession, but it's sort of virtual possession. Argentinian wait, and they're very patient at it. And they have very specific methods of attack. That's how the men's senior team play as well.
And bear in mind, for the French, it's a big position to finish for them. So they would have been trying not to lose, right? So trying not to lose is different to trying to win.
Knowing the coach Emeric Bergamo, at the beginning of the competition, you would think they were trying not to lose, but actually once they got into the game, he's got the temperament of the guy who wants to win. And I'm sure he prepped his guys. He's quite tough with his players, and I'm sure he prepped his guys to go for the win.
But that's the game, and not the players. And the players must walk
it's
into
about
that
the
game.
players' attitude, right? Because the players will go in there going, "Well, we can't lose this. We could be in the final," without fully appreciating to be in the final. They've got to go out hard and win the game.
You've always got to take more risk, because if you're passive, you'll end up losing it.
Yeah,
you can't just sit back.
Yeah, so there has to be the whole way that's built up the whole time in preparation before that tournament for when they're in the semi-final, how they're actually going to win it. So I don't reckon those players, if you asked them beforehand, would have firmly believed they were going to be in the semi-final of that event.
Well, the thing is, if you come back on the French team, many of the guys were in the at the European Championship. So France didn't take part to the Olympics, so there was nothing between the European Games, was it Eurocup? Was it called Eurocup or something like that? Between the Eurocup and now, there was nothing happened for the under-21 or for the adult, basically. So they were quite Timothée Clément, Igo, and so on. They were part of that team in the Eurocup. So it was quite a strong team. And the French team, the generation before, the one that Jon Delme has been managing, they went in the final against Germany in India. I can't remember, is that 4 or 5 years ago or something like this?
Yep.
So being at that stage for that team was not that strange. They were pretty conservative in their target, saying we want to pass the qualification rounds, the pool games. But there was still quite some expectations that they do something, at least reach the final.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty hard with these young kids because they change, because of age. So you don't necessarily have many players from the last Junior World Cup at this one. Most of your players will be different. Not all. You might have 1 or 2 that stay in there, but most are different. So it's a whole different culture in the way they have. So it's tricky. But, to win a game of hockey like that, and if I go back to the Rio Olympics, I think Michael was doing TV commentary. He asked me about Shane McLeod with the Belgium team. And I said, Shane McLeod at this Olympics will be too busy worrying about not losing and therefore will lose in the final. Because Argentina was very much an attacking side at that event, and they had some things go their way, so good luck to them. And what happened in that final, if you think back to that game, is Belgium tried to sit back and wait, yet Argentina took the game on big time and they won it. And in the end, they won quite comfortably. Now, to give him credit, Shane learned a lot out of that and was much more offensive in his orientation in Japan. But it was a hard lesson to learn from that last one. And so you see it quite often. It's perhaps not deliberate, but it's a whole feeling that goes on with teams.
So the other
you have to risk losing to win.
Yeah. The other thing you find with the under-21s is they play at a frenetic pace. So the tactical side is sometimes forgotten because they just go crazy, And so possession and holding the ball means I only hold it for milliseconds. They don't actually look for the best pass. They just pass. Or they take somebody on, they just run like lunatics. So they don't really play super tactical hockey because they're under 21. Have a go. They're running on testosterone. Crazy stuff.
I think that's actually a pretty good conclusion for this chat. Thank you very much indeed. We've got a couple of seconds to mention our sponsors. Oliver, Mosquito, Tempest. Okay, people.
Oliver, show us your hockey sticks, Oliver.
I don't have any with me. We're in the office. Sorry, Joost can get his stuff out as well.
Yeah, we talk about it this week.
Sponsors, thanks.
So, Joost,
where's the champagne?
Which champagne is the sponsor of this week?
Where's the champagne? Have you got that?
Oh man, that's disappointing.
Awesome.
Nice bottle. Nice bottle.
9 liters. Nice.
Did you want to talk about identity hockey as well, Joost?
I'm really shy, guys.
No, we'll talk about it. It's a fantastic brand. We're waiting some
Really
fantastic,
nice brand.
indoor gloves.
It's amazing. Yeah, the best quality, the best products, the best price. Totally.
Just the best. There you go.
Just the
From
best.
Pakistan directly. Yeah.
Immediately.
On this
The
side,
best
we've
from
got-
Pakistan. Can you imagine? Quality.
On this side, we've got hockeysource.eu and Tribaal, obviously. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you,
And
gentlemen.
we'll talk on the other side.
Okay.
Thank you.